Dramatic moments in the sentencing of convicted serial killer Michael Madison. The father of one of the women killed by Madison attacked the serial during sentencing this afternoon. You can see the chaos after the man lunged at Madison. A number of people jumped up trying to restrain the man. You can hear one woman yell, "No," and "Stop," over and over again.
3 women. Today, their prime suspect makes an appearance in court. So, how does he feel?
I've been better.
Abducted and missing for nearly 9, 10, and 11 years until one of the women, Amanda Berry, escaped, liberating all 3 of these women and the young child that Berry gave birth to while in captivity.
And I look and I see this girl, and she just going nuts on the door.
And witnessing their captor, Castro, sentenced to life in prison, just the beginning of the healing.
Cleveland's most notorious serial killers is the subject of a new book. Nobody's Women tells the story of Anthony Sowell and his 11 victims.
They turned around, yelled some more obscenities, and came after me and started destroying some of my equipment.
Geyser and the other 2 photographers were not hurt in the incident. No word yet on whether anyone will press charges. Licavoli and Castro returned to court for sentencing July 30th.
Cleveland, Ohio is usually talked about in terms of sports, steel, and struggle, the city of the Browns and Cavaliers, lakefront skylines, and working-class grit. But beneath that blue-collar story is another history that rewrote how the nation looks at urban crime. In the 1970s, car bombs turned Cleveland into Bomb City, USA, as Irish mobster Danny Greene went to war with the Italian Mafia under boss James "Jack White" Licavoli. Decades later, the headlines shifted from organized crime to something even darker. Serial predators like Anthony Sowell and Michael Madison hiding bodies in plain sight, and Castro holding 3 kidnapped women captive for over a decade in a regular neighborhood house. This documentary dives into the lives and crimes of 5 of Cleveland's most notorious figures: Danny Greene, James Licavoli, Anthony Sowell, Castro, and Michael Madison. From mob wars and RICO takedowns to death row cases, and one of the most shocking kidnapping stories in American history. These cases show how one city's criminal underworld evolved from car bombs and racketeering to serial deletion and hidden horror. More than just crime stories, they're a look at how law enforcement, courts, and entire communities were forced to respond when evil didn't just come from the mob, but from people living right down the block.
The grisly discovery of a Cleveland serial secret. The bodies of 11 women found buried inside and around 12205 Imperial Avenue, the home of Anthony Sowell, who became known as the Cleveland Strangler.
You can smell it as soon as you get on Imperial, all the way down.
Neighbors remember that stench of rotting flesh, so wrongly attributed to Ray's sausage store next door.
Throughout the sentencing hearing, Anthony Sowell kept his eyes closed and remained motionless, never looking at the families of his victims, never looking at Judge Dick Ambrose as the final sentencing was read.
And therefore finds that the sentence of death shall be imposed upon the defendant, Anthony Sowell.
The families of the 11 victims and 3 women who survived Sowell's attacks then gave their statements, some forgiving Sowell while others continue to show their pain.
This house set on fire yesterday morning in Cleveland's Union Miles neighborhood is just the latest incident that this couple believes is tied to their name.
My last name being Sowell.
Prophet Larry Sowell, cousin of convicted Cleveland serial Anthony Sowell, says he and his family have been taunted and harassed ever since police found the bodies of 11 women at Anthony Sowell's house. It's so bad that he asked me not to show his face for this interview. Family finally left their home here in 2010 to try to find peace in another city, but the harassment continued, including numerous break-ins at this house, and now the fire, which Sowell believes could be because of his name.
The house on Imperial Avenue, dubbed the House of Horrors, is no more. Demolition crews brought down the home where Anthony Sowell brutally 11 women.
51-year-old Sowell, he died in prison Monday of an unspecified terminal illness. He was sentenced to death back in 2011 after 11 women's bodies were found buried and displayed on his property on Cleveland's Imperial Avenue. Florence Bray's daughter, Crystal Dozier, was his first known victim. She tells 3 News that Sowell's death has brought her a sense of peace. Do you feel like there's some closure now that he's dead, or do you feel...
Yes, very much so. I can sleep better.
Anthony Edward Sowell was a former Marine who became one of Cleveland's most notorious serial killers. Between 2007 and 2009, he targeted vulnerable women on the city's east side, many struggling with addiction or poverty, whom he lured to his home on Imperial Avenue. There, he sexually assaulted and deleted at least 11 victims, hiding their remains inside the house and on the property. The crimes came to light in October 2009 when Cleveland police went to Sowell's home to serve a warrant in a separate grape case. Once inside, officers noticed a strong odor and soon discovered 2 decomposing bodies. A full search of the house and yard, including excavation with heavy equipment, led to the recovery and identification of 11 women in total, turning the address into a national crime scene. Sowell was indicted on 85 counts, including aggravated deletion, rape, kidnapping, and related charges. In 2011, a jury found him guilty of 11 counts of aggravated deletion and numerous other offenses, and recommended the death penalty for each demise. The judge sentenced him to death, and the case sparked major criticism of how missing person reports and neighborhood complaints had been handled. Ohio's Supreme Court later upheld both his convictions and his death sentence. Sowell remained on death row until February 2021, when he died from an illness while in prison custody.
Abducted and missing for nearly 9, 10, and 11 years, until one of the women, Amanda Berry, escaped, liberating all 3 of these women and the young child that Berry gave birth to while in captivity. Their horrific tale taking a turn now that the women have taken back their lives, closing in on a dozen years free.
"2207 Seymour Avenue held its evil secret for more than a decade. Windows blocked, interior doors barricaded, until a spring day in 2013 and a daring escape.
Help me, I'm Amanda Berry. I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here, I'm free now.
Amanda Berry, Gina DeJesus, and Michelle Knight, 14, 16, and 20 years old when they were abducted in Cleveland and held captive for years.
And I look and I see this girl, and she just going nuts on the door.
The nation and the world horrified by the atrocities these young women endured. Amanda Berry becoming pregnant and giving birth in captivity, her own mother passing away without knowing she made it out alive. Seeing the house on Seymour Avenue demolished and witnessing their captor, Ariel Castro, sentenced to life in prison, just the beginning of the healing.
I heard screaming. I meet my McDonald's. I come outside. I see this girl going nuts, trying to get out of her house. I go on the porch, and she says, "Help me get out. I've been in here a long time." So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, "Call 911." My name was Amanda Berry. That girl Amanda told the police, "I ain't just the only ones. It's some more girls up in that house." They look like they have been fed in a long time, bro.
And you had no indication that there was anything going on?
Bro, not a clue that girl was in that house or anybody else was in there against their will. Because how he is he just comes out to his backyard, plays with the dogs, tinker with his cars and motorcycles. There's nothing exciting about him. Well, until the day.
What was your reaction?
Between 2002 and 2004, Ariel Castro, a Cleveland school bus driver, kidnapped 3 young women from city streets: 22-year-old Michelle Knight, 14-year-old Amanda Berry, and 16-year-old Gina DeJesus. He held them captive for years inside his home on Seymour Avenue, where they endured ongoing abuse and control completely hidden from the outside world. Their ordeal finally came to light on May 6, 2013, when Berry managed to break partway free, reach a neighbor, and call 911, leading police to the house and the rescue of Knight and D. Jesus. Castro was arrested that same day. In July 2013, he pleaded guilty to hundreds of charges, including kidnapping, rape, and aggravated deletion related to an unborn child, and was sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years with no chance of parole. He died in prison a short time later, while the three survivors went on to share their stories through interviews, books, and films like Cleveland Abduction, ensuring the case became one of the most widely known crimes in Cleveland history.
We start right now with breaking news. Dramatic moments in the sentencing of convicted serial killer Michael Madison. The father of one of the women killed by Madison attacked the serial killer during sentencing this afternoon. You can see the chaos after the man lunged at Madison. A number of people jumped up trying to restrain the man.
Today in East Cleveland, police searched vacant houses in search of more victims in the latest gruesome crime spree to rock the area. Police say more bodies could be found. The work of an alleged serial killer has again left this community on edge. After a Friday standoff, police arrested this man, 35-year-old Michael Madison, but he has not officially been charged. Authorities believe he's connected to the recent of at least 3 women, their bodies found scattered throughout his neighborhood, wrapped in plastic. After first discovering the body of a woman Friday, police found 2 more bodies yesterday, one in a backyard and another in a basement of a vacant house near the home that Madison, a convicted sex offender, shares with his mother.
So it's kind of scary out here. I'm about ready to leave. Matter of fact, I am moving.
The grisly discoveries about 10 miles from the Cleveland home of Ariel Castro, the man who allegedly held 3 women captive for a decade.
We now know all 3 victims, Sherelda Terry, Angela Deskins, and Shatisa Sheely, were wrapped in black plastic bags. On day 2 of questioning, Madison confessed to killing a woman last year and admitted to dumping 18-year-old Sherelda Terry's body in his garage. At his arraignment, Madison pled not guilty to 14 charges.
Madison, I'm going to read to you the nature of the charges against you.
Who is Michael Madison, and how did the 35-year-old end up as an accused serial killer? Court records indicate he has a criminal history that includes a 2001 arrest by East Cleveland police on charges of kidnapping, attempted and gross sexual imposition. In 2002, as part of a plea bargain, he pleaded guilty to the attempted charge. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and when he was released, was classified a sex offender. As required, he reported to authorities that he was staying at his mother's house on Chickasaw Avenue in Cleveland, the same home where he was found on Friday after the first victim was discovered in East Cleveland. But some neighborhood residents say Madison was rarely at his mother's house.
East Cleveland residents say there were a number of red flags in Michael Madison's life, including his aggressive behavior toward young women and his admiration for notorious Cleveland serial killer Anthony Sowell.
One East Cleveland resident says Madison befriended her teenage daughter, and when she found out how old Madison was, told him to leave her daughter alone in a very forceful way.
Police say an 18-year-old climbed through a bedroom window at this home and attacked 2 10-year-old girls and a 12-year-old boy. Police say the teen stabbed the children, but they were able to escape. The 2 girls ran to a neighbor's home, and the neighbor called 911. When police got to the home, they found 67-year-old Diane Madison dead inside. This home on Chickasaw Avenue is where East Cleveland serial killer Michael Madison used to live. He was arrested at the home back in 2013. He is currently on death row for murdering 3 women.
Now, we just confirmed that Madison is the mother of that serial killer, Michael Madison, and he was arrested here, like you heard, back in 2013, and he's...
Michael Madison is an East Cleveland serial killer who was convicted of the demise of 3 women in 2012 to 2013. The case broke open in July 2013 when workers at a cable company garage noticed a strong odor and alerted authorities. Investigators soon discovered the body of 18-year-old Sherelda Terry in a plastic bag inside Madison's garage. A wider search of the area led police to 2 more victims: 28-year-old Shatisa Sheely, found in a dumpster, and 38-year-old Angela Deskins, located in an abandoned house nearby. All three women had met their demise in a similar manner, and detectives quickly identified Madison, a twice-convicted offender, as the prime suspect. He was arrested and charged with multiple counts of aggravated deletion and kidnapping, and later admitted involvement in the deletions. In 2014, a jury found Madison guilty on 3 counts of aggravated deletion along with related charges. The trial judge imposed a death sentence for each of the 3 deletions. Madison appealed, but in July 2020 the Ohio Supreme Court upheld both his convictions and the death sentences, ruling that the evidence showed a clear pattern of planned, repeated violence that met the threshold for capital punishment.
James Licavoli and John Calandra emerged from the rear door of the federal courthouse where TV5 photographer Rich Geiser was stationed.
One of the guys took his cane at that point and swung back and just wrapped me with it, wrapped my recorder.
Geiser continued to follow the pair out to Public Square.
They turned around, yelled some more obscenities and came after me and started destroying some of my equipment.
James Licavoli and John Calandra left the federal courthouse an hour after they were convicted on racketeering charges. Judge William Thomas allowed the 2 reputed mafia leaders to continue the bond set for them at the beginning of their trial.
James Jack White Licavoli was a veteran Sicilian mobster who took over as boss of the Cleveland crime family in 1976 after John Scalish's death. With a criminal career stretching back to prohibition in cities like St. Louis and Detroit, he was widely viewed as Scalish's natural heir. Under Licavoli's leadership, the Cleveland mob moved aggressively to crush Danny Greene's breakaway Irish crew, a feud that helped trigger the infamous bombing war across the city. Federal investigators eventually tied Licavoli to the plot to delete Greene and to efforts to corrupt an FBI secretary. In 1982, he was convicted in federal court on RICO conspiracy charges and sentenced to 17 years in prison, making him one of the early major mob bosses taken down under the racketeering law. Licavoli died of a heart attack in federal custody in 1985. His role in the Cleveland mob war was later depicted on screen in KILL The Irishman, where he was portrayed by actor Tony Lo Bianco. Together,
Cleveland in the 60s and 70s was known as Bomb City, USA, as factions fought for control of the city. Bombings were commonplace, a way to send a message or exact revenge, and big news like this downtown blast which killed Teamsters boss John Nardi. Danny Greene's legend was born in this era. Known as the Irishman, his colorful career included a rocky stint heading the local longshoremen's union.
And I found that my only compensation is headlines in a newspaper and bullets through my window.
His Waterloo Road home was bombed. He survived that bombing and a handful of other attempts on his life.
Obviously somebody didn't like him.
His luck ended after a trip to the dentist on October 6, 1977. Greene was killed by a remote control car bomb detonated next to his car in this office building parking lot in Lyndhurst.
Daniel John Patrick, Danny Greene, first rose to power as president of Cleveland's Longshoremen's Union, where he built influence on the docks and a reputation for toughness. From there, he shifted fully into organized crime, forming his own Irish-American crew known as the Celtic Club, often working with biker gangs and openly challenging the Italian Mafia's control of the city. By the mid-1970s, Greene and his ally John Nardi were locked in a brutal war with the Cleveland mob led by James Licavoli. That conflict turned Cleveland into what reporters called Bomb City, USA, with at least 36 car bombings between 1976 and 1977, 21 inside the city and 15 in the suburbs, as both sides tried to wipe each other out. Greene survived several failed attempts and even mocked his enemies in the press, but on October 6, 1977, the war finally caught up to him. A remote-controlled bomb hidden in a car parked next to his exploded as he walked out of a dentist's office and approached his vehicle, meeting his demise instantly. His death shattered the independence of his organization, and within a year, hitman Ray Ferrito was in custody. Greene's life and violent downfall later became the basis for the 2011 film KILL The Irishman, where actor Ray Stevenson brought his story to the screen. Together, these cases trace a brutal timeline of Cleveland's darkest chapters. Danny Greene and James Licavoli turned the streets into a battlefield leaving smoking cars and shattered mob empires behind them. Anthony Sowell and Michael Madison transformed ordinary houses and garages into crime scenes, proving that some of the most dangerous predators don't operate in gangs at all, they blend into neighborhoods. Aerial Castro showed how control and violence can hide for years behind closed doors, even as neighbors walk past every day. Yet every one of these stories also ends with the same theme: people fought back. Detectives followed trails that didn't make sense at first. Prosecutors pushed new tools like RICO. Families and survivors spoke out, forcing the justice system and the public to pay attention. Cleveland is not defined only by these men or by the violence they brought. It's also defined by the victims who were finally heard, the officers and investigators who refused to quit, and the communities that refused to let these names be the only story told.